guys, welcome to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, where we review and critique fantasy, horror, and sci-fi movies and TV shows. In other words, a non-troll zone. So all you trolls out there, I advise please leave the room. I mean it. Please leave the room.
Come on now. They're outside now.
So with me now is my name is Sarah Stephenson, and with me now is Michael Stephenson, and today we're doing our podcast on our own today. So
Yeah, all on our lonesome.
Yeah.
Now, today we're doing a TV miniseries. What is it, Sarah?
it's called Dracula, and it only came out just at the beginning of this year.
Yeah, Dracula, and in 2020, it was a 3-part miniseries made for the BBC in England.
And it's on Netflix and ABC One, I think. Not ABC, not ABC
I think
One.
it's on Netflix.
Not ABC One. I mean BBC One.
BBC
Sorry,
and Netflix,
guys.
I think. Yes.
Mm.
Anyway,
we'll give you a bit of a run you through the story of the actual of the miniseries.
before we go, this
for you.
is obviously being Dracula is a horror theme, but it's more like a dramatisation. It's not going to be a horror fest like Hellraiser or something with blood and guts and gore all over the place. It is a dramatisation with a little bit of horror thrown into it. Not a bad presentation, but we'll get into that as we go along. But it is 3 parts. So do you want to work on one part at a time, or the thing as a whole?
Let's just start with episode 1, and then I'll work our way through.
That sounds like a good idea.
So, episode 1. Pay attention, guys. This is very important.
Oh, sorry. In episode 1, that starts off in Transylvania in a castle.
Yes.
No, it doesn't. No, it starts off actually at with the nuns in the convent nursing Jonathan Harker, and then there's retro shots going back to the castle.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly so. As you guys probably heard in the Bram Stoker's book, if you read it, Jonathan Harker gets discovered by some nuns in a nunnery, and he's nursed back to health, supposedly.
Yeah, and in the original book, he goes back to England, and he survives, even though he's a changed man. But in the series, not so. But we'll discuss that as we go along.
So during the flashbacks, we'll flash back to John just going up to the castle in his carriage, reading a letter that he got from his betrothal, Mina. What's her name? What's her last name?
Murray.
Mina
Murray.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's reading a letter, and he's just daydreaming how much he misses her, all that stuff.
And thinking about his upcoming marriage. Remember, he's going to get married to her?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
he missed his betrothed.
Yes. So he arrives at the castle, and he meets Dracula, the old decrepit old man.
Yeah. It took me back to the Gary Oldman one a couple of years ago, where he was really, really ancient, and when he started drinking blood, he got young again. Same sort of theme in here. Some of the other Dracula movies don't do that, you notice?
I've noticed that.
Interesting.
But then again, if you read the book, I think it mentions that Dracula is, probably a little run down in the book at the beginning, and then things start to change about him in appearance-wise.
He does.
Which indicates in this mini-series.
But, again, we'll discuss that as we go through. But some of it actually is very much in line with the original story, but some of it is a new take on it.
Yes, quite so. So, Jonathan Harker, he stays at Dracula's, and suddenly he notices weird things that start,
He starts getting tired.
He starts getting tired.
And weird. And things are happening around him.
And Dracula, whose English is really bad at the beginning, is now turning as clear as if he was an English person already.
Yeah, and that sort of is setting the mood for the rest of the series, because... Can we go into that now, about the blood bit?
Oh, that's another thing, guys, just so you know. At the beginning, Dracula is as old as your grandparents. No offense to everyone out there.
There are young grandparents, and they're really old, ancient, decrepit ones, like I will be in a couple of years' time.
So he's old at the beginning of the first episode, and as the episode goes on,
As you drink a bit of
days,
John.
a few more weeks, he soon looks like as young as possibly what John
Probably about
is.
40-ish. No,
awesome.
he doesn't, not as young as John. John's younger, but when Dracula starts off looking like he's about 70 to 80 years old, and within a couple of
Yeah.
days, he looks like he's about 40.
Probably the day he probably would have most likely died, or the young
He's
age
getting
he
his
was.
youthful looks back. How's that? And, well, do we want to talk about the blood and the learning curve he gets from the blood now?
Yes, we can do that, Mike.
I think so. See, what happens is when he drinks people's blood in this version of Dracula, he does regenerate, he gets younger, but he also takes on their memories and their knowledge and skills and whatever. So if he drank the blood of a doctor, for argument's sake, he would know what the doctor knew. He would have the doctor's knowledge and skills. He could go and operate on somebody. If somebody was, back in those days, a master sword fighter, he'd become a very much the same master sword fighter, that sort of thing. So he chose his people wisely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is what's happened to Jonathan. His mannerisms and his good knowledge of English language have been sort of placed into transferred to Dracula.
So that's why Dracula needed him, so he can learn English ways, learn to speak English properly, become like an English gentleman.
So in the first episode, it's rather slow, which is what I didn't like much about it.
I think it dragged a little bit too.
It kind of dragged a bit. Like maybe if they cut down the running around so much, maybe we could just try to keep. We can maybe even just do it.
It was about an hour and a half long. It could have been better off being an hour.
Yeah, if we could,
or
guys.
adding some other scenes that make more interesting.
Yeah, if we could just had the had a 2 mini episodes instead of 3, because it's pretty much
a 2-part or 2 1.5 hours might have been better than 3 1.5 hours, and they could have condensed a bit and made it a little bit more interesting. It did run a bit slow for our liking, but the story itself wasn't bad, I don't think. But anyway, they're still working on episode 1.
Yeah. So what happens in episode 1 when things start going pear-shaped for dear old Jonathan?
Well, Jonathan slowly becomes aware that he is not the man he used to be. He was being decrepit, getting older and tighter day by day.
And decaying,
and
just so you know.
He starts decaying. Yes, that's part of it too. As Dracula drinks your blood in this one, even though you're still off, your body starts to die. But anyway, while he's there and while Dracula's having sleep in the daytime, Jonathan's trying to find his way around the castle. It's a bit like a maze, and even Dracula says there's so many corridors and passageways. It wasn't all built to some great master plan, so you can get lost easily. But Jonathan gradually finds his way around and finds some other creatures who he thought were other prisoners. Not so.
Turns out they're Dracula's
lunch, morning tea.
Either brides or his meals.
I think it was a mixture.
Yeah, it was a mixture because he keeps them all confined inside in very large boxes, the size of crates.
And he throws a bit of food into a cage, a couple of rats, babies, some stuff, whatever, so they can have a drink.
Yeah, so you may get to see some interesting side effects to Dracula's bizarre power.
There are a couple of things there, we won't say too much, because it's worth being reasonably new. A lot of people haven't seen it yet, so we still want to keep a couple of surprises in there.
All the while, Dracula describes himself in these miniseries as a
connoisseur
and a scientist.
He likes to experiment. I think these scientific approaches, he's trying to understand his own physical problem of being a vampire, because he doesn't really understand the full how do you put it, all the problems and mythology and truth about being a vampire. There's some things some of it's folklore which he believes is true, which will come later, but he's trying to find out different things about it. So he experiments. He gets somebody, converts them to a vampire, and then tortures them or kills them and see how they can die. Things like that.
Yeah, like he's trying to figure out
His weaknesses and stuff.
and
Yeah.
vulnerabilities and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Yeah, mixture. Yeah.
So, should we move on to the nunnery, like the
Well,
at the end of the episode?
no. Well, during this episode, he's at the nunnery.
Mm-hmm.
He's with this lady nun,
Yes.
obviously a lady nun, duh.
Yes.
And Sister Agatha Van Helsing is interviewing him, trying to find how he escaped
Yeah,
from
and
Dracula
just-
and what happened there.
Yeah, and just so you know, guys, he written this stuff down, but as it turned out, when he observes the actual paperwork, we see much later at the end, we see that it's not really an encounter of his experiences at Dracula's.
It was just a thing. He kept rewriting Dracula's God. Dracula must be obeyed. That sort of stuff. And he thought he was actually writing
his encounter with
his
Dracula.
encounter, what happened with Dracula when he was at the castle.
Yeah.
Not so. So he's in automatic writing or something, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Sarah?
exactly.
Yeah,
Well, we were discussing this today. We were discussing how automatic writing of it kind of links someone's mind to someone else's mind.
And pretty much he was being brainwashed. But as it goes through this bit at the convent, the funny part is that Van Helsing is not a typical nun. She doesn't believe everything that nuns believe because she's a bit jaded. She's been seeing so much of life, say, well, there's so much evil in the world, where is God, sort of thing. So she was on her own spiritual journey as well, wasn't she?
Yeah, I think she's. I wouldn't be surprised, even though we don't know too much of her backstory. Even though she says she's from, well, what country did she say?
I can't remember, but I think she's Holland.
Yes, she came from Holland, but we don't know much about her backstory. But I think that she may come from a scientific background, maybe.
I think she must have been, because I mean, obviously Van Helsing in all the other movies was at least a student of the occult, and I think she was a student of the occult, stroke scientist, I suppose. She knew about these things, where all the other nuns didn't know that sort of stuff. But yeah.
So during the interrogation, Mina how Jonathan Harker's fiance is there, disguised as a nun.
And he didn't recognise her because his brain was so addled and everything else. He couldn't remember what she looked like anymore. But she being dressed as a nun wouldn't help either,
Yeah, I mean, if you ask me, wearing the habit, this is kind of
in the habit of dressing properly.
Funny, but she was wearing a habit, so technically it kind of removes what she.
Yeah, she wasn't talking, and you couldn't see her hair, couldn't see her body, so there's nothing. There's no visuals for him to pick up on. So he didn't recognise her, partly because his brain was gone a bit, because he can't. His memories were fading because he was dying.
Yeah.
But that's another trick, isn't it? Mm-hmm. He wasn't alive.
Yeah, he wasn't either
he didn't have
half
a pulse.
A vampire, or he just had no pulse.
He wasn't breathing, he didn't have a pulse, but he was still walking around. So he wasn't actually a vampire, he was pretty much, what do you call it? Like a zombie. Not a zombie, but zombies don't talk.
I can't figure out.
Living dead. Let's say living dead, not a vampire.
Just living dead, and he's not a vampire, but
he still could talk and think and interact with people. He still has craving for blood. He was starting to.
Just bear in mind that in this miniseries, when some people who become vampires, they maintain their source of humanity and soul.
But not about the soul. I think the soul's going to dead. But the point, they got the humanity, but they were fighting the evil side as well, which is starting to take over. Because they got this craving for blood like Dracula, but they've still got their I suppose their residual memories of their previous existence, saying, I was a really good guy, I wouldn't normally do this, but gee, that blood looks nice. So it's an ongoing battle. He nearly kills Mina.
That's true. And soon enough he wanted to be killed, because even though Mina at first, she didn't want to kill him so much, but she
wanted to save him. And even Van Helsing wanted to save him too, but because he's not completely dead, but he's beyond help in this. I'm not sure whether Van Helsing wanted to save him, because she had a bag full of steaks with her.
True.
Like, she had enough to do half a dozen vampires and stuff there.
I know. But even Mina thought that she could save him. But by the time the interrogation's over, you can see right now that he was not made to stay in this world very long.
No, he was falling apart.
Like, his body was like his body was completely falling apart. Like nails of
Yeah.
him were kind of falling off.
But anyway,
Skin was deflaking, all that
anyway,
stuff.
as we move on through episode 1,
Yes.
towards the end of it, dear old Drac baby
Yeah, he comes.
gets access to the convent
Yes.
by being invited in by, you guessed it, Jonathan
Harker.
Harker. And
Yeah,
he,
even after he got staked by Mina, but
well, he didn't get staked, but he was going to, but he couldn't do it, so he grabbed a stake and stabbed himself with the stake. Now, listen to this, and I believe it's true in all the other books. A vampire cannot commit suicide. So he stabbed himself in the chest with a stake, fell on the ground, and everyone thought he was dead. Not so. So Dracula comes to the window and says, "Hello, Jonathan." And he wakes up, what? Yeah, and he told him, you can't commit suicide. Otherwise, all the other vampires would have committed suicide as well.
yeah, it's like it's like this. He says you can't commit suicide. Believe me,
I've tried.
I've tried.
Yeah.
Sort of attitude.
So anyway, and he coerced Johnny to ask him to
Come
in. So he came in, and then he attacked all the nuns and invited all these werewolves in or whatever.
Werewolves.
And all the nuns, except for Van Helsing.
And Mina.
Yeah. Well, Mina was allowed to go because Van Helsing said, "Yeah, take me instead of her." So he said, "Get out of here," and but he took Van Helsing with him on the boat in episode 2.
Yeah. Well, you kind of rushed ahead, but
No, that's
just so you know,
that's a segue into the next.
I know. I'm just
episode.
going to tell you guys that during the scene, Van Helsing and Mina, they try to protect themselves using that special holy bread.
Oh
to-
yeah.
in
They
a
use
bit
some
of a circle.
bread to use for the communions in church.
Yeah, just
and
what-
that actually worked because Dracula does have his fears of those sorts of things. I won't say what because some of it is explained a bit more in episode 3, and it's not what you think.
No. Yeah.
He doesn't even know why he's scared of it.
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it?
It is interesting, and even Van Helsing even tried to even though she discussed it with him, he says, "You're completely wrong about this. Sorry, but my fear, my dislike for the cross and the holy bread, and not be able to enter anywhere, is pretty much not. You're not right. You're not correct."
Yeah, he's wrong. He had no idea because there's so much. I won't say. Well, there's so much folklore and mythology going on around him. He started to believe it over the years. He's about 500 years old. So that's okay.
Yeah.
But so he's at the stage where he thinks all the stuff he heard was true.
Yes.
Now we get
Okay,
near the
now
end of episode 1.
Yes,
we're
we're
going
at
to roll
the end.
into
So,
episode 2.
as you heard, Van Helsing is brought along with Dracula onto the boat.
the Demeter or something.
Yeah.
The Demeter.
Yes, and this is an
It was bound for England.
Now, in this one, it's a lot more like one of those Agatha Christie
Yeah,
type
almost.
style movies where you see,
It was a
episodes.
whodunit.
Yeah, like a whodunit. Like everyone suspects someone, and
We have a killer on board. It could be you, or it could be you.
anyone is a suspect, and everyone has a motive for being on the boat.
And the funny part is, I'll tell you this part. Everybody, not so much the crew, but all the passengers had been lined up by Dracula,
Yeah.
one way or another. There was an old lady who was invited to go to England to write her memoirs, and the person who was paying for it was a person, Villar or whatever.
Villar.
Yeah, and Villar, yeah.
Blah,
I can't pronounce it, Villar, I think. Anyway, it was the same guy who was a silent partner for this young rich guy in a business venture.
Yeah, and this rich guy, just so you know, he's traveling with his new wife.
He's really
and
cute too.
His butler. I can't say valet.
His butler, his man, whatever, was
Yeah.
actually his boyfriend. This guy was gay or bisexual. Interesting that, but he had his butler, man, whatever, travelling along as part of his servant, and he was a very arrogant person.
Yeah,
saying he doesn't want to be called a
the,
servant.
Yeah, he didn't have the mannerisms of a servant. No offense.
He wasn't bowing and scraping and different things. He wanted to be an equal. and that was a dead giveaway.
Yes, exactly. Not exactly the mannerisms of a servant.
Anyway, but there was another person on the boat, a scientist, an Indian
Yeah, a
scientist
scientist.
doctor, and he had was a sponsor to come to England,
Yeah, something.
and it was the same person. And this person that was a fake name, a phantom name, what do you want to call it, a ghost name for Dracula. He was using that as a fake name, so everybody had an ordinary name, not Dracula, to come to England, and it all came together because he wanted something from each of them.
Yes, and so
Yeah.
the scientist guy, he travels with his mute daughter,
who's deaf and dumb.
who's both deaf and dumb. So,
Deaf?
I think she's
Deaf and dumb, yeah.
yes.
She could see, but she couldn't hear or speak.
And so she can communicate with sign language,
yeah.
pretty much. So, and the scientist guy, he's very protective of his daughter.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't want to see her getting hurt or any other. And another thing about the scientist guy, he seems to have a good knowledge of supernatural
the
stuff.
occult and stuff, and I think that's one of the reasons why he's on the boat. But just on the side here, there was a mysterious person in cabin 9.
Yeah, okay,
and no one knew who it was. The person never came out. The captain knew the person was in there, and all he'd say that there was somebody who's ill in there, and they won't be coming out. And no one actually knew who was in there until closer to the end of episode 2. But all will be revealed later.
Yes, so as the story goes, it's Dracula arrives on the boat, and when they start getting onto their journey, on the first night he creates a mist around the boat.
Yeah, funny that. I made a comment when I was watching it. It said, if the sailors back in those days used to navigate by using the stars, how the hell could they find their way anywhere if they're in a constant fog and couldn't see the stars? They could have headed for England and ended up in New Zealand.
Good point.
Who knows? That part to me didn't make sense because they didn't have radar, they didn't have navigation devices, had absolutely nothing.
And then a radio.
And nothing. So just they get one of those little sections through of things, and the stars used to plot themselves on the map. So we're over here, blah blah. Keep heading east. Well, that's about it. But they might have had a compass and somebody steering, but you could be way off course.
Yeah, just so you guys know, this is back in the 1800s, or that.
1800, yeah.
So that was around that time before proper sailing navigation was presented years later.
Actually, this movie was supposed to be based in 1897, if my memory serves me correctly. So there, 1800s, yeah.
Yeah, so roughly around there. So our victim, so the story continues on, and our vampire starts feasting on bits of people here and there, and munching, and
sorry.
Yes, and soon enough, it starts off like a few disappearances, and you don't see any dead bodies or anything like that. You just see a lot of they just disappear off the boat.
Yeah, but probably the first one, I suppose, which heralded the problems was one of the crew, because he was talking to this old lady, and she was speaking German or French?
Russian.
Whatever, Russian, that's what it was, yeah. And he went outside, said, my Russian's a bit rusty, hang on a sec. He went outside, bit of Russian sailor, drank some blood, came in, was speaking perfect Russian.
Yeah, and even, that's where it starts picking up that why Dracula's gotten all these people together, so we can get a bit of a little bit of self-control, if you can, to practice.
Well, so is that, and someone's gained knowledge from them, and so one of the guys was rich.
Yeah.
And he was his partner.
Oh.
And he bit him too, and then he got his money.
Well, actually, it goes like this.
Yeah.
He's traveling with his wife, whom they got married, and she's probably she was very, very wealthy, and no doubt Dracula attacks her, and then much later on he attacks him, and he explains to him that we're not friends or partners. I want your money,
lunch.
and then
And I got
yeah.
it. Thanks very much.
And just so you know, this rich guy, we pointed out, he's got a boyfriend in this story, and he kind of gets moved by Dracula because of his,
Elegant.
seductive,
Elegant, yeah, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
and he assumes that his partnership means eternal partner, as in much more.
He thought he was going to become a vampire with him and live forever with.
Yes.
Not so. He's an insipid little twerp.
Yeah, and
he deserved to die.
Yeah, he kind of he tried to serve. In this one scene, he kind of killed 2 people in order to make him feel worthy of dear old Dracky.
And he killed one person he shouldn't have killed because Dracula wanted to drink his blood.
Yes,
and
even Dracula pointed out to him, "What did you done?"
You twit.
Yeah, even the guy says, I saved you from this the guy who's gonna kill you.
How can he kill him? He's already dead.
Yes.
Yeah, man, hello, he's Dracula.
Yeah, and so Dracula points out to him that I wasn't intentionally going to use you create you as a vampire. I only chose you because your wife has a lot of money.
And so when she got married, some of her money went to him, and then because she died, then went to her husband, and then he killed the husband, and he was his business partner type thing, and he must have had some agreement involved where he would get all the money.
Quite.
Isn't he clever?
Yes, he is very clever. He chosen really, really well.
Yeah, so he got money, and he got knowledge from the old bird. Yeah, the old lady was about 80 or 90 years old or something or other.
Yeah.
And he missed out the doctor though.
Oh, just so you know, the old Russian lady, she kind of knew Dracula in the past.
She remembered him. Like, you were the young man I danced with when I was 21 years old or whatever it was.
16.
16.
Yeah, and just so you know, Dracula even mentioned in this episode that this is not his first journey outside of his country. So
I must have missed that. Okay.
Which indicates that he probably has travelled the past and has collected sorts of knowledge and collected a number of people's blood.
Oh yes.
Which it a little surprises me. Why doesn't he? If he's so learned and he's travelled before, why does he have to? Why is this like his the? Why is he this is second?
Yeah, but you have to understand the knowledge of 100 years ago is not the same knowledge as now.
Good point.
So every stuff you've got to top up his knowledge.
Yeah,
mate,
I guess it does indicate, because in this one, of course, it does mention the soil, and maybe the soil starts. Maybe I don't know how it works. How the soil stuff.
Horticulture?
I don't know. but he does sleep in the coffins full of his natural earth.
He was a bit stupid. He had 50 crates of dirt on the boat. I mean, 50? Hello?
Maybe
what are you going to say? Start a market garden or something?
Well, maybe there's a scientific reason behind why he has 50 crates on board.
You want to sleep in one?
Yes, but maybe only a certain number of days does that earth become. Well, maybe it just does. It expires.
Oh, in case he soils it. He soils his soil.
Yeah, but you get my meaning. It may expire the feeling of the soil, and he may have to jump into another.
It's like crop rotation.
Yeah, something like that. But he might have a reason, but there's no explanation behind that. Why he has this is.
But 50 seems a bit too much. A dozen I could see, but 50. Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, let's move on from the coffins.
Yes.
Well, the dirt, I mean, not coffins.
Yeah,
dirt.
so then the sailors start noticing the disappearances, and then they start suspecting, cabin number 9.
Number 9. Anyway, they all go down there eventually.
Yes, they do, and they discover a lot of, souvenirs from the previous victims on the boat.
Yeah, like the old lady's necklace and different things.
Yeah.
And and Dracula, smart boy, says, it must be her. Yeah, blah, blah, she's the killer.
Yeah.
So they take her outside and they're going to hang her.
Yeah, they were playing a lynching.
Lynch, yeah. We found you guilty, hang her. Yeah, that sort of thing.
But the doctor and even the captain, they both look at her and say that she couldn't have possibly be able to do all this.
She's 2 weeks. She can hardly stand up.
She can hardly stand up. Like she couldn't even keep her eyes open in this scene.
Yeah. So then she starts to trick them by saying she's a vampire, and just scaring them off so they wouldn't hang her. and said, if you try to hem me, I won't die, and I'll just come and get you anyway.
Yeah.
And they're getting scared, and then what happened there that Dracula
She bit her tongue or whatever and
spat
on
on Dracula, and he started to show his true colours, his eyes and his teeth and whatever.
Yeah.
So he says he's a real vampire. I was just saying that to to
Yeah.
bluff him out and whatever. And then they realised that she was okay and Dracula was who he was.
Yeah, and all the time he was playing bit of a Columbo type detective, sort of.
Yeah, Columbo? Is it
I
Columbo?
Okay, not Columbo, but
How about
well, let's just-
Poirot?
yeah, like something like that.
Yeah, he's trying to help out, sort of trying to find who the killer was and solve the mystery when he was actually the one doing
he
it.
even admits it to himself in the scene that he felt like he thought he would make a good detective.
Yeah, like Sherlock Holmes. He should have been Sherlock Holmes, hey?
Yeah, so he's been anyway. So he escapes from the group, and before he gets away, he kind of kicks the chair out of under Van Helsing,
and everyone goes and grab her to save her so she wouldn't die. Isn't it lovely?
Yeah, even though she's already dying, she's kind of developing the same decayness
Falling apart, if you will.
as Jonathan Harker. Like she's suddenly drying up a little bit. Not so much really fast.
But anyway, as this goes on, they believe her and whatever, and then she convinces everybody that the only way to save themselves and everybody is to blow up the boat before it reaches England.
Oh, Dad, that was before. We're missing a few more bits.
Yeah, we can't just drag on. And
I know, but there was also a scene where they were going to get there, but she even suggested they throw a few of the earth boxes overboard, except for one, in order for him to be trapped in there, if they can.
Yeah, and he didn't go back to it because there was another one hidden.
Dad, you're missing another bit of the story.
What? He didn't go back to his box. They found the dirt underneath the mattress.
One of the scenes in it is that they decided to try to do the same thing they did in the convent by using the Bible pages to make a circle in order to
keep
everyone safe.
That did work too.
It did work, and while one of them is skeptic, like he doesn't believe this.
That young
butler guy. He kept saying
he didn't believe in this rubbish.
He says we need a general, not a nun guiding us, all that stuff.
Yeah, he didn't believe in it because he wasn't a Christian. He was whatever he was. He's an African guy. He believed in. No, he wasn't a Christian. He believed in his ways.
Yeah.
And he didn't believe in our faith. He said our faith's got no strength
Well,
against
I don't
this.
think
and he thought he was just a madman.
I think he was just.
He actually said that.
I know that, but it has nothing to do with his belief. It just means that he just doesn't believe that he was a vampire. Period.
Yeah, but he also didn't
believe.
He didn't believe in the Christianity side of it either, because he wasn't a Christian. He was whatever he's.
Dad, it doesn't have anything to do with that. It doesn't mention it in the movie either.
The way he said it, he didn't believe. The little pieces of paper won't help you.
Well, Dad, it is a little hard to believe because no one even heard of vampires.
He didn't believe in the Christian Bible, so he would not have been necessarily Christian. He might have been, whatever they were. He believed in his spiritual things, and I
don't think so, Dad.
But he didn't think he was
It seems that he was he could be just an atheist.
I just said that. He didn't believe in Christianity, but he didn't believe Dracula was a vampire either.
Yeah.
He didn't believe in anything
and
spiritual.
And he gets annoyed when someone, even in one scene where another sailor points at him and says, "You know about this witchcraft and magic because you're from Africa."
You're from
and
Africa.
he got really pissed off.
Yeah, because it's being typecast.
Yes, that's what I mean. You're typecasting this character.
He doesn't typecast. I'm just saying he didn't believe in Christianity. He would have had his own spiritual beliefs, not necessarily voodoo. Okay, I said wherever he came from. Everyone had some sort of belief.
Yes,
but he didn't
and
believe
he was atheist.
Okay, he's an atheist. He didn't say what he was, but he didn't believe Dracula was a vampire. He just believed he was a madman.
Yeah, it's true.
That's what I was trying to say before.
Let's leave it at that. So anyway, the very same guy, when Dracula appears, he tries to get him to step outside the circle, and all the time he kept saying, "Fine, stay in the circle, do as you're told, like you always do from your previous employers, yada yada yada.
Yeah, he goaded him out, and
Yeah.
he came out there, and he tried to shoot him. How
Yes.
do you expect to shoot a
Yeah,
guy
he was
who's
trying to
already
prove
dead?
a point, but which the point was a bit a stupid one when you think
Yeah,
about
he had
it.
me 6 shots into his chest, and he just gets up there and he
says-
kills him. So silly.
Yeah, but soon enough they do try to hand Dracula, even burning him a bit, and they
Yeah,
thi-
that's just hard of him.
and for a while they think they won.
How wrong can you get?
Yeah, and then
It's only episode 2.
but all the time Van Helsing knows that he's still on the boat somewhere.
Yeah, there's still impending doom.
Yes.
And that's when she
And that's when
decided
she suggests to burn the boat
blow it
down.
up before it actually reached England, so his evil ways wouldn't reach the shores of that lovely country. Isn't it lovely? So they had a lot of gear to blow the boat up.
Yes, they put
And-
together some gunpowder, some
Well,
other stuff.
yeah, they had some
bomb.
gunpowder and stuff there, and
Yeah.
they blew the boat up.
And of course, she mentions to the captain and his crew to do not talk about the location of the actual boat where all the vampires
oh, by the
took
way,
place.
but I think they got a lifeboat. I think there's only, 2
One
crew
lifeboat left.
There's only 2 crewmen, the cook and his assistant.
Yes.
And the captain stayed on board to go down for his ship, and Sister Agatha, who was already dying because she'd been chewed up by Dracula a few times,
Yeah, and
she had her blood infected, so
Yeah.
she decided to go down the boat too.
Yeah. Well, she says she's dying,
Yeah.
and she wants to make sure that her job is done with him.
So, boom.
Yes, and Dracula, well, he escapes into his box.
Yeah, one of his boxes he found on the ocean floor, so he had to sleep in there. Now, this is the part that gets me.
Yeah, it really gets me too.
No. He went into his box, and he stayed there for 123 years recuperating.
Yeah, even though it looks like he stayed there for like a few seconds in the end of this episode.
It just sort of went down there, and then you see him getting out of the box, walking to the shore. And then all of a sudden, it's now time. Instead of 1897, it's 2020. And he's got helicopters and police cars and that sort of thing. Everything showing people with guns and video cameras and stuff. And a lady who looks remarkably like Sister Agatha walks up
Van Helsing.
and says something like, "Welcome, Count Dracula. We've been waiting for you." Yeah.
Well, she said, "What kept you?"
Oh, what kept you? That's right. What kept you?
And it got me thinking.
Yeah.
Either it's not the quote sounds a bit funny when I think about it.
What's that?
Well, the quote sounds like she was expecting
She was,
him.
but no when.
Yeah, well.
She knew he's out there somewhere, and he knew he was going to make his way there. He wasn't dead.
Yeah. So
And- but then we find a little bit later in episode 3. We're in episode 3 now.
yes.
That one of the scientists actually found his box and was checking him out, and Dracula, in his half-awake state, bit her finger, and some of her blood got into his mouth,
Yeah.
and that helped his regeneration process to help him wake him up.
Yeah, well.
We didn't know that until later on in episode 3.
Yes.
And so
How they found out where the ship is interesting to me because
well, no one's supposed to know where it is.
In episode 2, the crew decided to keep the location a secret. Like, mention the story, tell everyone about the ship that had housed a vampire, but not mention where the location is.
And it went down, and that was it. And so anyway, it rolls on.
It rolls on.
There's this lady who looks like Sister Agatha is a
Descendant
of her great grandfather or something or other.
Well,
Or was
grand-aunt.
her uncle, grand or whatever was.
Because she was a nun, Dad, and she can't have
but
kids.
they had the same grandfather. She had a great grandfather, and that was her father as well, or something.
her
Whatever.
father's grandfather's aunt. Or
Well,
something.
whatever. Yeah, the grandfather. It's something weird like that. But it goes down, had the family bloodline, and looked exactly the same, and that sort of stuff. But she was working for this foundation, this Jonathan Harker Foundation, which had been started off by good old Nina Murray. Mm-hmm. Because after Jonathan got chewed up by Dracula and died and everything, she inherited some money and she started the foundation up for whatever reason I can't remember at the moment. but they're always waiting somewhere for Dracula to show up so they can get him, imprison him, and studying his blood cultures and whatever, so they can find out what makes him tick and probably a way to kill him, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, so they put together this foundation, and once they had Dracula incarcerated in their laboratories, he's been offered blood from donors, not the unhealthy kind, but like if you were donated blood, in a hospital drive.
Here's a bottle of blood. Drink this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of Jurassic Park. T-Rex with a cage. He didn't want to get fed. He wanted to go hunting. And I think Dracula wanted his freedom to go hunting. Yeah.
Most likely.
Yeah,
it sounds like him.
He wanted his freedom out there. So,
Yes.
So
anyway, soon enough, who would arrive but Renfield?
Yeah, Renfield. It's quite funny. The solicitor's firm that Jonathan Harker worked for, who took care of the real estate purchase for Dracula back in 1897, well, the same firm is still around, and Mr. Renfield works for them. And the modern-day Dracula has learnt how to use an iPad, and he's contacted them on, what did he say?
On the internet.
On internet and Facebook or something or other. And he contacted saying, I'm still alive, and because he's still a client, they had to represent him, even though it was a bit on the old scary side. Well, he's still a client of ours, and so and they got him. They got them on unlawful detention of Count Dracula. Of course, he hadn't done anything wrong.
Not in the present.
Well, they couldn't prove anything. So you can prove it that he's done something wrong, otherwise let him go.
Yes.
They had to let him go. How stupid.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
They shot Renfield as well.
in this timeline, in this one, in the future, there are like 3 other characters you may have seen in the actual book, and that would be Jack Seward, Lucy Westerner, and Quincy.
The American guy.
Yes, because Quincy he only is a very small role in
He's
this
only
one.
got a small bit.
Yeah, so he doesn't really play a part in Dracula's final destruction.
He comes over a typical American git, as
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned. Full of himself. Oh, yeah, I'm rich.
Yeah.
Rah, rah, rah. Yeah, man, crikey. Why do they always do that? Why can't he just be a normal American?
I don't know. Anyway, Jack Seward, he's
he's a nice, quiet
he's a doctor's student.
He's learning. Yeah, he's a student doctor, I think.
Yeah, and
learning,
he's hoping to learn, become a mental health doctor.
That's great. Yeah.
That's
mental
why he's,
health,
and he's sort of, or probably used to date Lucy Westerner. No, and but now she's.
I think his name's Weston's show, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I got rid of the A.
And she is now dating Quincy.
Quincy, yeah, because he's got money, and he thinks she's drop dead gorgeous, and she loves his money.
I wouldn't be surprised if this Lucy is. So she's very pretty in this one, just so you know, and
a real party animal.
Yeah, she's also a party animal, and I also think that despite she's very, I think that sometimes I often think she might be most likely a model, maybe because she's very.
Nah, it wasn't
pretty.
that good. No, it wasn't. She's very attractive. Not a very attractive young girl.
Yeah, and she's very very interesting.
She's a very out there person, very much a party animal.
Yeah.
Was not afraid of anything or anybody. She knew people thought she was attractive, so she did have an attitude problem. Say, hey, everyone loves me because I'm good looking, yada yada yada. However, I think she was sick of life.
Yeah.
Because it was boring for her.
Yeah, well.
And she wasn't scared of death. Wasn't scared of anything. And Dracula tastes the blood and says, I've never tasted blood like this before.
Yeah, so anyway, as the story goes, once Dracula is out of his cell, or
when he escapes from the Jonathan Harker Foundation,
steals Jack Seward's mobile phone, which has all his phone numbers and Lucy's number on there, and he soon starts doing a daily visiting with her.
Yeah, well, you need the feed.
Yes, and and when on the day she's doing a bachelorette party, you could see right away that there was a few bite marks indicating that this is not his first visitation.
Yeah, he's had a few encounters with Drac, and she hasn't been scared off.
Yeah, meaning by the sounds of it, I think he's been spilling the beans about his vampirism stuff.
Yeah, and she's not scared of it. She's not scared of death or anything, and that's why he likes it. Actually, I think he was looking at making her one of his real brides to live with him forever.
Yeah, well, I don't know about the living forever.
Or dying with him forever. How's that?
Because bear in mind in this one, like in the book, he's not really interested in.
He hasn't found anybody good enough.
No, he's just not into a monogamy relationship. Like he prefers to be.
The way he's talking to her about.
Yeah, well, he says.
He said, "Don't get cremated and stuff because I want you." And then, I love you how you are, and blah blah. And
But he also says when she asked him, "Do you love me?" and he says, "No."
Will you ever love me? No. But he didn't. He still wanted her.
True.
He said it's a long-term relationship with no strings.
Yeah, well, that's what Dracula is. He doesn't like. He doesn't like being tied down.
He could be Mormon, have half a dozen wives.
Yes, I mean that explains a lot because when you look at Dracula in the book, you see that he doesn't like a tied down relationship.
No.
I mean, unlike the Bram Stoker's Dracula one with Gary Oldman in it, where he was trying to find his wife from his previous life.
The reincarnated wife who committed suicide when she thought he was dead.
Like that. But unlike that one, which has been a really inspiration to all of us over the years.
I like that version.
This version indicates is more close to the book version.
Yeah, but anyway, let's roll on a bit. Because
let's roll.
This is getting long. This now. Where are we up to? We're going to. You got Lucy.
Yes.
Blah 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 blah.
Yeah. So he meets her in the cemetery, and they
gobble.
Have a bit of a sneaky, whatever.
Another munch.
And just so you know, and Van Helsing in this timeline, she's got. Cancer.
She got
stage 4 cancer.
Stage 4 cancer. She's dying, and actually she is really, really bad and sinks fast in this episode.
Yeah, I mean,
which is good because that helps in the plot.
Yeah, so even Dracula kind of drinks her blood in one scene,
and he threw up.
Yes, like
bad blood.
Yeah.
And he said, "Ew, I taste something," and he said, "Oh, I've tasted this before." I said, "I think you call it cancer nowadays."
And just when things were going a bit pear-shaped, she's in hospital, and just so you know, after Dracula leaves the Jonathan Harker Foundation, he gives her some blood. His blood in a little vial. Yes, in a vial, and she drinks it. And she starts seeing things that only Dracula and previous victims may have seen.
Yeah. So she gets a bit more insight into Dracula, but as this episode progresses, she ends up leaving the institute after Dracula goes, and we find out she's actually in hospital in an oncology ward or something, and she's dying. And who visits her? Agatha.
Yes, Agatha visits.
Because Agatha was in Dracula's blood, and she drank some of Dracula's blood, and they made a link there, and because their family was so closely related DNA-wise, she was able to talk to Agatha, and Agatha told her what she needed to do in a roundabout sort of way. And so she did. Take it away, Sarah.
So Agatha and Zoe, in this time, in Van Helsing's descendant is called Zoe, just so you know. And they discussed why Dracula is feasting on Lucy. What does she have to offer him, mostly? I mean, other than her good looks, to boot, Dracula would not just feed on just about anyone. He would just feed on people who may either benefit him.
Exactly.
So why Lucy all of a sudden? What? I mean, she's not the brain teaser in the bunch. She's just very attractive and.
I think he's. There's something about her blood, but there's no fear, because that comes out later towards this episode. They find out that Dracula has a couple of problems, and that's one of them.
So let me see. Dracula drinks all Lucy's blood, and somehow she gets cremated.
Yeah, and the undead don't die in cremation, so she actually breaks out. A bit the worse for wear.
Yeah. Well, I like Dracula, who can regenerate after one sip of blood. Yeah. Lucy and Jonathan, they both don't exactly regain their
No,
prettiness.
she was, yeah, how would you put it?
Oh,
Burned to a crisp. No.
yeah, but you think that Dracula begins at in the first episode as a decrepit
Yeah, but
old
he
skull
had the power to
corpse.
regenerate. Other ones don't.
Yeah, yeah,
But he didn't know why.
yeah, maybe they just didn't know the power of how to use the blood to
Yeah,
make them young.
I don't know.
I don't
but
know.
Irrespective.
Irrespective.
Lucy is cremated but breaks out,
Hmm.
and she makes her way back to Dracula's place. At the same time, he is being visited
By
by
Van Helsing and
Zoe
Jack
Van Helsing
Seward.
and Jack Seward, who I think Zoe has a plan to confront Drac.
Mm-hmm.
And they come in there, and Drac says, "Oh, you brought something to drink." Looking at poor old Jack. He said, "No, it's customary." And she says, "It's customary to talk before dinner." Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, and I think yeah,
That was quite a good line.
yeah, but you gotta admit Dracula is reasonable when it comes to moments.
Yeah, he's very impulsive.
Yes.
But anyway, irrespective.
Irrespective,
Let's roll
yes.
on. And then we hear a rap, tap, tap on the door.
Yeah, beforehand, Dracula finds out about the cremation, and he's not so happy
You don't
about
have
it.
it, yeah.
Like he told her that
Don't get
go into
cremated.
the fire.
Yeah, because you'll get a melanoma or worse. Still worse. But anyway, irrespective, she goes to rap, tap,
Irrespective,
up on
yes.
the door, and in comes Lucy in all her splendour, naked and charcoal and no hair.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, even though when she looks into a
Yucky.
mirror, she sees herself as
Yeah,
she was.
Yeah, she can see herself in the mirror as what she looks like, but everyone sees her like a decrepit piece of charred grilled
Corpse.
steak, whatever. And then someone takes a selfie. Was it a phone?
She does. I mean, does
does a selfie or something.
Yeah, well, she's sort of always taking selfies, so
And then she saw what she really looked like,
and she freaked out
and she asked for Jack to terminate her. What? Did Jack?
to kill her.
Yeah, to
Yes.
kill her. Yeah.
At
And so Jack killed her,
Yeah.
and then she powdered her eyes. She broke little pieces.
Before she starts crying, and Dracula tries to calm her down by saying he likes her just the way she is. But
Yeah, well done.
but Lucy, apart from not caring much about life itself, she loves her
Her
looks
beauty.
a lot more.
Yeah, she was in denial. She's undecided. Everyone loves looks and blah blah. But she loved looks too.
Yeah, I mean,
She's
she
very-
thought she was beautiful, and she
Yeah.
thought that if she turned to a vampire, most likely she'll
She'd be beautiful
maintain her
forever.
beautiful.
But she wasn't. She was a piece of.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great stuff for Halloween.
Yes.
But anyway, irrespective, she dies.
Irrespective.
And
Yeah, after saying a final farewell to Jack Seward.
he gave a nice kiss, and then he killed her.
Yes.
Anyway, what a way to go. Anyway, Jack leaves the room. Well, Van Helsing says, "Jack, leave. I have to do some private things here with Dracula."
Yes.
And this is when everything sort of
Yeah.
comes together. You want to take over the bits and
Yeah.
pieces? Or?
So in the scene, just like something I've seen in in the Hammer version of Dracula, she runs across the table and then pulls down the curtains, revealing the sun.
In. Yeah.
A lot like that Dracula movie that Hammer made, and it's very similar,
Yes,
but
okay.
except for the part where Dracula doesn't turn to dust or anything like
but he's
that.
rolling around in the sun here,
Hmm.
and he realises he's not burning.
Shocker of
Shock,
shockers.
horror. And then Van Helsing explains to him,
It's like 1,000 miles, and the sun won't hurt you.
it's just, you think it will because of all the folk history, folk tales, mythology.
Yeah.
It won't hurt you. And then she started to unfold more things. Like,
Yeah,
what did you
like-
say about the cross?
Like that
The
he
crucifix.
something about that the cross represents everything that I don't
He said no. She said that the crucifix symbolises death and suffering.
Mhm.
And we found out that Dracula was a coward.
yeah
His family and he and the rest of his family were warriors, soldiers, that sort of thing. And he was but he was scared. His brothers died in battle. His father died in battle, and he was
His
scared
sons
to
and his
die. All that
grandsons.
sort of. He didn't want to die in battle. He was scared to die. So the symbol of the cross crucifix said that's a symbol of ultimate suffering. That scared the out of him. I'm not sure about the sunlight bit, but the mirror part every time he looked in the mirror, he saw what he really looked like. Now, decrepit old man.
Mm-hmm.
Or probably even worse.
Which explains why
yeah,
Lucy looks in the mirror and sees her beautiful self.
yeah.
But so, what's
But
that?
yeah, but he saw what he was really like, and his real self is like the selfie. You are what a bit like the portrait of the Dorian Gray you mentioned the other day.
Mm-hmm.
It said, yeah, the portrait was growing old. Well, when he looked at the mirror or in a reflection in a glass or a pool of water, that's what he saw. The old
Mm-hmm.
decrepit picture.
Mm-hmm.
That's what, and he didn't like what he saw because he didn't want to be that.
Yeah. So, as the
So
story.
lots of things came together. Oh, that made sense. Maybe not true,
Yeah.
but made
Of
sense.
course, in
Yeah.
this one, it doesn't explain how he became into a vampire. This is more about, as I said at the beginning, that this is mostly about why he's vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know, why is he afraid of the
That, and the other.
crucifix?
Yeah.
Why he can't step into someone else's house
Yeah.
uninvited?
Yeah, but he can.
Things like that.
That's the whole point, probably, because someone said you can't come in because you're not invited, sort of thing. And he thought, and because he's been shunned, he thought that was real. And the case is, he's just been programmed to believe he can't come
Yes.
in. But all those other things were because he was scared of society, being shunned by people, everything else, and he started to believe all the stories.
Yes.
So really, if the vampire comes to your house tonight, and he goes knocking on the door, says, "Can I come in?" and you say no, he'll probably just walk straight in.
True. Yeah. So Dracula finds out all this. He's a little bit stunned and a little bit like he never even he never knew at the for all those years he used to thought that this stuff will
Yeah.
hurt him, like.
But then he realised that what she's telling was the truth. He was scared to die. And that's the reason why he hasn't died. He wants to die, but he's scared to die.
Yes, and so.
And he can't kill himself being a vampire.
Yeah, and he watches Zoe Van Helsing slowly dying from her cancer.
Yeah, because it's really starting to take hold of her now because she's exerted her strength too much.
Yeah.
And
he admires her kind of courage
yeah,
in this.
exactly.
We're not in this scene.
So she offers herself.
No, actually, she doesn't offer herself. I mean, she just sits there, and he's like looking at the sun, and then he just, while she's probably in her, slowly entering the
Almost dead.
almost dead. They have a final dream sequence vision of each other.
Because he's been drinking in blood at the time.
Yes.
The dream sequence comes in with drinking.
Yeah. Anyway, just so you know, there's some dream sequences in this, and Dracula. This only happens when Dracula's drinking a victim's blood because he doesn't want his victim in pain.
Yeah, and so he makes a pleasure, and they had them in a romantic embrace.
Yeah, so it reminds me a little bit of
maybe he secretly was in love with her.
Maybe he admires her courage.
Yeah, possibly, and they were dying together.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
the sequence reminds me a little bit of another version of Dracula that was done in 1979 by and it was sort of done in a nice, an interesting, similar colored, sequence. It was rather interesting and engaging, and it was done by the guys who did this sequences from James Bond.
Okay.
In the credits and all that.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't tell you who it is, but I'll probably look that
Do you
up
know the name
eventually.
of it? Do you know the name of it? What year approximately? When it was 70s?
It was. I said 1979.
79 was it? Okay. Anyway, look out for Dracula movie around 79.
Yeah. So it was a bit of an interesting dream sequence.
Yeah.
And wait to the end. We watch the dream end as their bodies slowly,
Decompose. Well, don't
slowly begin to,
die.
and disappear into the sun.
Yeah.
The hot sun.
Yeah, so we see him dead on the table, dying on the table.
He's
where
drinking,
he bit her
and then his body's dead.
everything's implying that she died and he died, and they're going to wherever.
To the unknown.
To the unknown, yeah. And honestly, I think it dragged a bit, the whole series, because you only think about it, it was about 4.5 hours long. It was a long set, and when you think about it, it could have been done a bit shorter or add a few more things in it to make it a bit more interesting.
Yeah.
The beginning of it slow. The last episode I fine, wasn't too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I
It
thought the second one and
Yeah.
and the third episode
Yeah.
were pretty
Yeah,
good.
because this was not a horror type movie. It was a drama horror type film, and that was more on the drama side. And dramas can seem a bit slow if you don't have too many jump scares and
Yeah.
different things happening. But they were actually setting the mood and painting pictures of the characters and building everything up and
Yeah,
whatever. So
and
it probably could have been a little bit shorter or a bit more interesting in some places. But I
Yeah.
still reckon it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. It's just that, like so many people out there who probably miss the old Dracula story. I mean, I like the actor who's portraying him. What's his name?
Don't ask me to say his name. It's
His name is
Claes Bang. And Claes, it's Claes is his first name. I really don't know. Is it Claes or Claes? His last name's Bang, and that sounds like he must be European, even though he had an English accent. I don't know where he's from. But the lady who played Van Helsing was a Dolly Wells, and she did the nun with speaking English, obviously, with a Dutch accent, and then in the current part of it, where she was her great niece or something or other, she'll speak with an English accent. And Dolly Wells played both parts quite well, I think. What do you think?
quite right.
Now, did we actually say he actually created and wrote it? Had a Mark Gatiss and a Stephen Moffat created and wrote the screenplay and everything for it, and I think they did a pretty good
Yeah.
job. Again, a little bit slow for my liking, but if you don't mind, see, a lot of English stuff is a bit more slow moving because they like to develop the characters a bit, whereas the American one's more wham bam thank you ma'am sort of stuff. So if you like the
Yeah.
English stuff, I'd say
Yeah.
this is pretty damn good.
Yeah, so the guys who created it, they also created the Sherlock miniseries.
Oh, that one with Cumberbatch in it.
Yes.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
And the modern contemporary version of Jekyll and
Okay.
Hyde, so
The
you know.
TV miniseries one.
Yeah, the miniseries
okay.
of that one.
Oh wow, they do
And
get
a
around,
number
don't
of other miniseries. They're also most likely working on a modern, maybe I'm not
they?
sure.
Oh
if
yeah,
it's,
it said Frankenstein maybe.
yeah, I'm not sure if it's a modern Frankenstein or it's
But
going
more
to
might
be.
do the same treatment like
It's
this,
going to
who
be
knows,
an
or-
old one like this one that they did with the first
well, this
two
one started
episodes.
off old, bought and contemporary, so they might do something similar.
Just might.
Frankenstein 2020. But today's society, does he integrate, or is he too moth-eaten to integrate?
Well, so
Yeah.
we'll have to wait and see. I just hope they pick the right actor for it, because this guy who plays Dracula,
Yeah, he had that.
he bang.
He had that dark, sinister European sort of look. He looked good for the role, I think.
Yeah, he looked like he was a modern version of Billy the Ghosty or Christopher.
But
Reeve's
but not over the
version of
top
Dracula.
European with the camping it up there.
Yeah.
Hello, I want to drink your blood. He didn't do that sort of stuff. He just he had
he
that
did the
touch
others.
of evil about him, and that sort of seductive personality. And I think it really worked. I think he really worked for the part.
Yeah, just so you know, guys know his attitude in the miniseries. He puts me in mind of
Tom Ellis?
Tom Ellis from
The
Lucifer, the TV series.
Yeah. Similar attitude. I mean, this guy Dracula was a little bit more serious, but he still had the same whimsical sort of cheeky sense of humour. And it comes out in some of the things he says. And actually, when he's delivering those slightly humorous lines, he looks like he's having a good time, like it's all tongue-in-cheek. So yeah, he was quite believable in the dramatic part and the tongue-in-cheek bits as well. So yeah, I think he played it well.
I quite agree.
So what do you think, Chubbles? If you're going to rate it, say 1 out of 10,
Well, I won't bring up the
Oh.
rating just yet.
okay,
but
we've got
I
more
like
to say, have we?
Yeah, I like to bring up that throughout the episodes, I've been casting my brain back here and there on the scenes, some of the scenes,
Yeah.
like some of the Dracula's limitations and his abilities and why. And it does make me think of a number of Dracula's, not just Dracula movies, but other vampire movies that came and went, and it got me thinking
Yeah.
how many of them put me in mind of certain Dracula vampire movies, like
yeah.
like some stunt scenes, like the scene where Van Helsing climbs on top of a table and pulls down some curtains.
Yeah, that sort of stuff's
That
been
was
done
sort
before.
of similar
I think
to.
didn't Peter Cushing did something like that,
Yeah,
didn't he?
Peter Cushing did it
Ran across
in
the
the
table
first
and did that.
Dracula
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
You know, defeat Dracula
Yeah.
in that scene. And there were some other scenes there, like some really good ones out
Just
there.
a little bit, yeah. So,
Like,
well, nothing. Look, nothing is new anymore. It's all been. I mean, you can liken it to any movie you've seen, but it was still independent creation by these guys,
yeah,
and the director did what he thought was really, really good, and it came out as a good and the whole product.
yeah,
I think it comes together pretty
Yeah.
good, even though, like I said,
yeah.
English things are a bit slow for me sometimes when they're like a miniseries.
Yeah, another
yeah.
thing that does
But
put me
it's
in
good, though.
perspective is how much like the part about Dracula taking his blood from his victims and they slowly decay away, or some of his brides and some of the people he's been with, and how they slowly decay, and it puts me in mind of another vampire related movie that was done years ago called Count. Whoa,
Count Yorga?
yeah, him.
That's not one.
how
That
he's
was Robert Quarry
Yeah.
for your young
Yeah.
folk. That was an American version.
Yeah, in that version, he drinks the blood, turns them into a vampire, and they slowly decay away.
Yeah, that was Count Yorga Vampire, and I think the Return of Count Yorga Vampire were done,
Yeah.
I think, in the early early 70s.
Yeah, so
Yeah, early
in that
70s.
one, he kind of drinks blood from a number of women or men or whoever, and they slowly become more like bloodless zombies.
Yeah, but
while
yeah.
he maintains his good looks and appearance.
Like me.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not. Lucky this isn't a video, hey.
Yeah, so I rate this movie or miniseries, as we were discussing.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
look-
I probably would. I'm trying to rate this, but it's a little hard because there are things I didn't like about it, but at the same time I won't bring it.
Well, overall, as a production, like a storyline, filming, every continuity, that sort of stuff, how would you rate it?
I guess I'd probably say 7 out of 10.
7, yeah. I'd go about 7.5, but only because it was running a bit slow, and I think,
Yeah.
I mean, the continuity was there, the film was there, the acting was there, but to me, it dragged.
Yeah. The first episode did drag me down
It's
too
just,
long.
I mean, it's sort of like if you didn't have a sleep until you watched the first episode, they put you to sleep. That's how it came about. Now, that's no disrespect to the guys that wrote it or produced it, and it's just that I'm not English. I'm Australian, and I watch English and American and Australian content, and I found this one, for me, dragged a little bit. But people in England and Europe might actually like the way it slowly develops. I don't know. But,
or any. I had a friend in Europe, and he says he didn't very much like it either.
Okay, what, too slow?
Yeah, too slow.
Yeah. So maybe it could have been a 2-part instead of a 3-part. It might have made it better, but who knows?
Yeah, so
Anyway.
it's all in the individual, and as I said before, I'm not going to beat it with a stick.
Yeah, I'm not going to be. I mean, these guys did a good job. I mean, look, we're into being honest about our feelings about movies. Not everyone's going to get 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. You're going to get the odd one that's going to be about 7. That's no disregard, no disrespect to the people who made it. It's just our personal taste.
Yeah.
If in doubt, have a look yourself. Make up your own judgment as you know what you like. I don't know what you like. I don't even know you. But if you can get a copy of it, see it, look at it, make your own judgment. I think it's a good look. Again, for me and Sarah, Sarah and I don't think it moves fast enough for our taste, but that doesn't mean it's not a good show.
Yeah, I mean, if they somehow made these standalone, well, maybe make the incorporate more scenes in episode 2, like include both scenes from episode 1 and episode 2.
So half of episode 2 in episode 1 and the other half episode 2 and episode 3.
Yeah, that would make a good standalone mini
Get rid of
movie.
the dead bits, and it would have been a lot better. Yeah.
Yeah, that would make a good standalone movie for this.
But anyway,
and the third one could be good for a sequel to that.
Well, they wouldn't need a sequel. He's dead.
I know. But if they cut certain scenes from episode 1 and put them into episode 2, it would probably go a little bit faster.
Oh yeah, they will just you just trim it down, trim the fat down. Remember when Alfred Hitchcock made Psycho? He was stillborn, and he had to cut things out and do this and re-edit and everything else to make it interesting. And I think really a good recut of this would do the same thing. But maybe, don't know. But I did like it, but like I said, just a bit slow for me. But anyway, do you want to wrap up?
Yeah, just okay, we'll do. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you guys have a good night's sleep and unpleasant dreams.